Hey everybody, and good Wednesday evening. You have found the final edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here in the year 2020. I am off tomorrow and Friday, so no Weather Geeks again until Monday. So I want to continue kind of reviewing 2020 in this video. We've been doing this on Weather for Weather Geeks this week, and this graphic is kind of a noisy looking graphic, but this shows every single day of the year and how temperatures were compared to the average. Of course, the orange bars, warmer than average days, the blue bars, cooler than average days. A few highlights here. Of course, the year began on a very balmy note. Look at this day back in January. Early January, we had a day that was over 30 degrees warmer than the average. That trend continued into February, it continued in March, and actually compared to the average, the most significant stretch of cool weather in the year 2020 was during the springtime, back in April and during the first part of May. If you remember, we had accumulating snow around Mother's Day this year. But once that cold snap broke, we were in the 80s before you knew it, and we had a lot of 90-degree temperatures this summer, and by far and away, the warmer than average days have outnumbered the cooler than average days, even though we did have a stretch back in September that was somewhat impressive as far as cool weather. But look at this stretch back in early November. We had temperatures 20 to 25 degrees warmer than average for a couple of days back in early November. For the year, we're going to end up around 3 degrees warmer than the average for the calendar year 2020, and well, this is 6 consecutive years now that have been warmer than the average, dating back to 2015. And really, since 2010, the only years that have been cooler than average, 2013 and 2014. And 2013 was only a little cooler than average. 2014, the most significantly cooler than average year we've had since the late 90s. But ever since then, the warmth has definitely dominated. And, you look back at the last 20 years or so on this graphic, 23 years, this is a pretty small sample in the grand scheme of things, but we've got weather records, good weather records that take us back to 1930 as far as sensors, air temperature sensors, but we have really good, reliable data about the atmosphere and the oceans going back a long, long time now, and no doubt that, of course, climate change is a real thing. The Earth is warming, it's warming rapidly. This kind of a graphic, you have to be a little bit careful. You can't draw a direct line between the warmth that we've had over the last 20 years and climate change, but the warmer than average temperatures that we've been seeing consistently is certainly a symptom of a changing and a warming climate. Even though, again, this is a pretty small sample size, it fits the overall trends in the last several decades. All right, as we look ahead to January, I wanted to get into kind of a different look at things this evening with regard to the challenges we have in trying to figure out what will happen in January. If you remember from our original winter forecast, we did call for warmer than average temperatures in the heart of winter, January and into early February. That certainly looks like it's going to come to fruition during the first part of the month. But the rest of January, there are some question marks. And the reason for this is we have something going on. It's kind of starting right now, but it's going to kind of peak in the first week to 10 days of January. We have something going on called a sudden stratospheric warming event. And that basically means that unusually warm air at the very top of the atmosphere, we're talking almost in outer space, where there's very little air pressure. This is way above where the airplanes fly, up to 90, 100,000 feet above our heads. Up at that level, we're getting warming, significant warming, happening quickly, and it's encroaching upon the North Pole. What happens when that takes place is the polar vortex gets displaced. What you're looking at here is a model depiction of the way things look around the 6th of January at that very top of the atmosphere. And what you have is what kind of looks like a banana. This is sometimes called a banana vortex, where the polar vortex, instead of sitting right here directly over the North Pole, it's kind of stretched out like this. You could probably say it's centered over northern Europe, but the vortex itself, you could argue, is kind of stretched like this. So the vortex gets knocked off the pole. That inevitably leads to a displacement of the coldest air across the northern hemisphere. The big question is, where does the colder air go? Sometimes when you get these displacements of the polar vortex, the cold gets shoved on the other side of the pole, over towards Siberia and into parts of Europe. Sometimes it comes down into North America. This is kind of something we don't really know at this point, where the heart of the cold will be. But one thing for sure, this sudden stratospheric warming is occurring. It's going to have an influence on the North American weather patterns as we go into midwinter. I have a higher confidence in the idea that it will likely be a stormy January. Frequent bouts of precipitation. coming in the month of January. How much of that is frozen? How much of it is liquid? Hard to say, but my gut feeling is that it's going to be another snowier than average month during the month of January. Here's a look at the NOAA January outlook that was put out about 2 weeks ago. They'll put out their update tomorrow. I thought they might today, but it's actually going to be the last day of the month tomorrow. This map looks good through the first 10 days of the month, and it may look good for the month as a whole, but I just don't know that yet. But certainly through the first 10 days or so of January, this idea of warmer than average temperatures dominating looks pretty good. Also looking pretty good is the idea that it'll be a wetter than average January when all is said and done. And December is going to come to an end on a drier note tomorrow, but the second of the last day, the second of the last day of the year, of the month, definitely soggy. We have wet weather out there this evening. Light rain and drizzle will continue throughout the course of the evening, but this will probably end as a little wet snow later tonight as this colder air mass starts pushing in from the north and the west. This is what is coming our way. It's the ghost of Christmas future, if you will. These temperatures in the 20s and 30s out to the west of I-75, out into Indiana, Illinois, and into Wisconsin and Michigan. So right around 11, midnight, 1 a.m., this comes to an end as a brief period of wet snow. Roads will be wet. Maybe you get a little candy coating on windshields, maybe some grassy surfaces, but that'll about do it. Not expecting this to be real impactful. And I think as we head out in about Thursday morning, on New Year's Eve day, it will be dry. And maybe even we see a few peaks of sun before the afternoon is through as high pressure pays us a brief visit. Just a brief visit, though, because, well, that old front is going to come back north as a warm front as we go into New Year's Day on Friday. We'll be dry at midnight tomorrow night, and then New Year's Day on Friday. The rain looks a little slower than it did 24 or 48 hours ago, but it's coming. It'll probably come in around midday. The slower arrival of the rain on Friday means that impactful ice does not seem likely at all around here, even though this could start as a brief period of freezing rain with temperatures right around 32. The rain continues off and on into Friday night, and even though you don't see much depicted on our model here Saturday, I'm not going to be surprised if we have light rain and drizzle and mist and just generally kind of gloomy, crummy weather throughout Saturday and even into Sunday as well. So tomorrow night, as the calendar flips from 2020 to 2021, we'll be in the mid-20s, 27 degrees. Partly to mostly cloudy and uneventful weather for the start of the new year. Rainfall totals coming into focus on the modeling here. A couple of days ago, some of the modeling was advertising over an inch. I do think we're closer to a half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch worth of rain, most of this coming during the daylight hours on Friday and early Friday night. Again, the ice accretion around here, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Much bigger deal out towards Kansas City, St. Louis, and then also to our east of I-79, and especially once you're out towards Du Bois and Clearfield along I-80, Bellefonte and Williamsport, and the PA Turnpike as you go east of Pittsburgh and head into the higher terrain out towards Johnstown and places like that, maybe as far east as Breezewood. The ice could be problematic, mostly Friday evening into Friday night and Saturday morning, and no surprise, a winter storm watch is out for central parts of PA. All right, another long video this evening. Thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate everyone watching not only tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks, but all of the geekiness we've found ourselves getting into in the year 2020. I'm going to have, of course, more of the same kind of content coming your way on 21 News at 6 and 11, on my social media outlets, on my weather blog, ericwfmj.com, our station weather page, wfmj.com/weather. The best weather app you can find for our area, that's the Storm Tracker 21 app. Make sure you're downloading that for your Android or Apple device if you have not done so already. So that's where you can find this content anytime, and I'll be back with more Weather for Weather Geeks on the 4th day of January on Monday. In the meantime, Happy New Year to you and yours, and have a great rest of your weekend.